Hello, 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 world. This is your host, Louise Hicks of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour, and I'm bringing you another informative video. And again, I'm Louise Hicks, your host, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. Please subscribe, leave your comments, give your likes, give your thumbs up, and let's talk. And today, we're going to talk about ABC News journalist George Stephanopoulos, old George, and his interview with Byron Donalds, where George seemingly to have a meltdown. He got pretty frustrated and he started asking the question. So, if you all are aware, Donalds, Byron Donalds is a representative. I believe he's from Florida. And George Stephanopoulos is an ABC News journalist. He's on Good Morning America, been around for years, years, and years. So let me allow you to listen to the video or the interview that he conducted. And by the way, Byron is a Republican. And I did a piece on Byron and Al Sharpton as well. If you want to go back and look at my video that I did on that podcast, where there was some controversy about Black families being better off. It had to do with the Jim Crow era. So you can go back and check that one out and see what I had to say about that. And let me put this disclaimer here. I don't pander for either party, whether it be Democrats or Republicans, because I believe in quid pro quo. Vote for policies and the various implementation strategies that will be utilized to provide whatever our needs are within the Black community. What am I going to get for my vote? Because that is my investment into the politician that we are hiring to protect our country, that being America. So again, Louise Hicks, your host here of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. Please subscribe, share, give it a like, leave your comments and a thumbs up. So here we go. Let's listen to this, and then I'm going to give you my perspective on old George and this particular interview with Representative Byron Donalds. Here we go.
And Republican Congressman and Trump ally Byron Donalds. Congressman, thank you for joining us this morning. Why is former President Trump questioning the vice president's racial identity?
Well, first, George, in Chicago, he was responding to a question from, I believe, Rachel Scott. Like, this is really a phony controversy. I don't really care. Most people don't. But if we're going to be accurate, when Kamala Harris went into the United States Senate, it was AP that said she was the first Indian American United States Senator. It was actually played up a lot when she came into the Senate. Now she's running nationally. Obviously, the campaign has shifted. They're talking much more about her father's heritage and her Black identity. It doesn't really matter. The president mentioned it. What he also talks about far more frequently is the fact that Kamala Harris is the person who created this massive inflation, which is destroying Black families, white families, Hispanic families. It's her failure as border czar that has left our southern border wide open, more than 10 million illegal immigrants coming into our country, record fentanyl coming into our country, which has killed more Americans than at any other point in the history of our country with respect specifically to fentanyl, and the fact that she and Joe Biden have unleashed one of the worst foreign policies in the history of our country that has us on the verge of World War III. That is Kamala Harris's record. President Trump talks about that frequently, but yes, he did mention it in Chicago in response to a question from Rachel Scott.
And you just repeated the slur again. If it doesn't matter, why do you all keep questioning her identity? She's always identified as a black woman. She is biracial. She has a Jamaican father and an Indian mother. She's always identified as both. Why are you questioning that?
Okay, let me stop quickly right here because he's asking Byron Donalds, why is he questioning that? Who asked the question? How did the conversation get started? George Stephanopoulos asked him the question. But wait till you see the headlines in what they're saying here. Now, he asked the question, but Byron Donalds started talking about policies and what's going on here in America, which is a chaotic, divided country right now. And George Stephanopoulos is harping on this race baiting here about Kamala Harris's ethnicity, which is not the most significant factor that we should be concerned about at this time. Because as Black people, I know personally myself, as I stated, I'm not pandering for either party. I'm pandering for policies and implementation strategies that will impact our community as Black citizens of this country, first of all. That is my priority. And I would think it would be the priority of all Blacks, which is to elevate and build within our own community. That should be our primary concern. And what kind of policies is being laid out by each candidate, President Trump, as well as Vice President Kamala Harris. So let's continue to listen to this because you're going to see where George continues to pounce on this particular issue, the ethnicity, race baiting issue, as opposed to focusing as a journalist, and he's a seasoned journalist. That's what makes it so sad here in this interview that he's doing with Byron Donalds. So let's continue to share. And continue to listen to the rest of the conversation here.
Well, George, first of all, this is something that's actually a conversation throughout social media right now. There were a lot of people who are trying to figure this out. But again, that's a side issue, not the main issue. The main issue.
Sir, one second. You just did it. You just did it again.
Of the United States.
Why do you insist on questioning her racial identity?
You want me to talk?
I want you to answer my question.
George, now that you're done yelling at me, let me answer. He talked about it on the stage yesterday in Atlanta for what, 2 minutes? He spent more than 35, 40 minutes going after her record, talking about how radical of a senator that she was. She was the most liberal senator in the United States, in the United States Senate. That is a fact. He talked about the job that she did as vice president of the United States, a job, I will add, which has been a failure for the American people. I know you guys like to glom on to this that he talks about in jest or in a serious manner for about a minute or so, but what you do not cover is the litany of failures of Kamala Harris. That's what you're not covering, George.
So questioning somebody's racial identity for a couple minutes is okay?
George, I'm going to tell you again, he brought it up. AP is the one that wrote the headline when she first came in to the United States Senate. Didn't talk about her being Black, talked about her being the first Indian American senator. AP brought that up. I mean, George, we could have this conversation for the entire segment, but none of this matters to the American people. What matters to the American people is, are we going to have the same policies of the Biden-Harris administration that has been destructive of the American people, or are we going to have the policies of the Trump administration, which put America first, had low inflation, prosperous Americans, no matter your race, no matter your color, no matter your creed, and a foreign policy that kept America safe. Those are the facts that truly matter, because this issue is going to come and go. The lives of the American people is what's going to remain, and that's what matters more than anything else.
If it doesn't matter, I don't understand why you keep on repeating it, why the president keeps on repeating it, why those introducing the president yesterday
George,
keep on
actually,
repeating
I'm
it.
not the one who keeps repeating it. George, you're the one that's bringing it up now. That's you.
You've done it,
I understand why
sir.
you've done it.
You've done it 3 times. Every single answer
George,
you gave me. Now let me finish, sir.
George,
every single answer you gave, you repeated the slur.
You asked me, George. That's why I'm pushing back on you now. George, you
right,
asked me the question 3 times. I responded, but I'm
and every single time you repeat the slur. That is exactly my point. You simply can't say that it's wrong.
George, so then what you're saying, and I want to get off this topic because it's not the only thing that's going on. But George, now you're saying that AP is the one that slurred Kamala Harris, because those are the facts. You can go to the internet and look at the clips, George, if you want to, or we can talk about this now. I prefer to talk about the future of our country, because the American people are struggling. The American people do need serious policy decisions to be made, and they need serious leadership on the world stage. Kamala Harris has not proven that she can do that. Donald J. Trump has proven that he can do that.
AP did not say that Kamala Harris is not black. She is biracial. She is Indian. She is black. You continue to repeat the fact that you continue to repeat the slur. I don't understand why you and the president do it, but it's clear you're not going to say that it's wrong. And you've now established that for our audience. Trump also said at the convention that he would pardon January 6 rioters.
Everybody look for themselves. Let's move on.
I've already said that. Go ahead.
On the internet, everybody. Let's move on. There we go.
So, you go on and repeat the slurs again. Trump also said at the convention that he would pardon January 6 rioters who assaulted police officers. Do you support that?
Actually, what he said is that he was going to review every single case. He even repeated that again in Chicago at the NABJ. Listen, what we do understand is that the Department of Justice under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they did massively push up charges on people who protested at the Capitol and some who rioted at the Capitol on January 6th. So what he's talking about is doing a case-by-case review. You can lump it all together all you want, but those are the words of Donald J. Trump. I'm quite sure on the internet people can pull up that clips. They can watch it at their own leisure.
I'll read it to you right now. This was Rachel Scott's question. My question is on those rioters who assaulted officers. Would you pardon those people? Oh, absolutely, I would. That's his words.
Yes, but you did not leave in was the rest of his comments where he said, yeah, I would, but we want to look at everything on a case-by-case basis. That's what will happen, George.
No, that's not what he said. He said if they were innocent, I would pardon them. They've all been convicted. He said he would pardon those who assaulted police officers. Do you support that or not?
George, you just changed the soundbite. You just changed it. Now you added, if they're innocent, then I will pardon them. Let's go back to the record of January 6th. Again, not something that matters.
I didn't change the soundbite. That's exactly what he said. They've been convicted.
George, the first thing you said was, yes, I'll pardon them. Then you expanded
and he said that.
To say, if they are innocent, then yes, I will. That's what you said, George. Now I'm responding. Okay. So what he's saying is that, yeah, I will go and look at these cases. If they're innocent, yes, I will. Of course, if somebody was beating up a police officer at January 6th, he's not going to do that. But if you had people who were just walking through the Capitol, which did occur on January 6th, because the security protocols had changed because of that riot at the Capitol, then what he would do is not allow them to be held in jail with these massively increased charges by the current U.S. attorney in D.C. under the Biden-Harris administration. Compare that to the fact that at the rally that the riots that just occurred at Union Station when Bibi Netanyahu was speaking to Congress, you had the same U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia who decided to just let people go and not file any charges, even though they were defacing monuments at Union Square. So we want to be fair with the justice system. We don't want to be political with the justice system.
My question is on those rioters who assaulted officers. Would you pardon those people? Donald Trump. Oh, absolutely, I would. You wouldn't pardon those? If they were innocent, I would pardon them. That is the entire quote. They are not innocent. They are convicted. He said he would pardon them.
And George, what I'm telling you is he's going to go back and look at these cases, because it is without a doubt. And look, January 6th is a very painful memory in our country, but it is without a doubt that the U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia was supercharging these people because of political viewpoints. Because you had other riots that have occurred in Washington, D.C., where the charges were minimized or dismissed altogether. That is not an even-handed system of justice. That is a politically motivated system of justice. And you don't have to look any further than the difference between how the Department of Justice has treated Donald Trump versus how the Department of Justice has treated Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton. What he is talking about is equal enforcement of the law, not picking and choosing because of your politics.
I would remind you that this Department of Justice actually indicted Hunter Biden, the president's son. And of course, we were talking about assaults on police officers, people who were convicted for assaults on police officers, which the president has said he would pardon them. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, let's stop right here and let's talk. Because what do you think? Again, I'm Louise Hicks, the host of Aim to Purpose, this podcast, Spiritual Empowerment Hour. Please subscribe, share, leave your comments, your thumbs up, your like, because we, as particularly us in the Black community, we must continue to educate, and we must continue to let these people know that we utilize our brilliant, melanated, critical thinking skills and exercise our power. And this is what I saw here with Byron Donalds, because George Stephanopoulos showed his true colors and his attempt to exercise his white privilege when he brought the subject up. And I just call it for what it is. And this is what we must do. And Stephanopoulos, who is supposed to be a seasoned journalist, who is on Good Morning America, and this is the kind of interview that he conducts when he has a meltdown over Kamala Harris's ethnicity, which is not the most significant thing that we should be discussing right now, where we are living in chaos in a divided country here in America that has been going on for almost 500 years now. And George has the audacity to attempt to exercise his white privilege over the guest, Byron Donalds, which is utterly ridiculous. And he really showed his true colors. And Byron was given some factual points, actually, about the border. Kamala is supposed to be the border gatekeeper. And she has opened the gates up to these illegal migrants. And guess where they've been thrown by the politicians? They've been thrown in the Black communities, where Black people are homeless, struggling just to survive, and they're given all kinds of perks, money, education, new cars, credit cards, from what is being alleged, to these illegals. And they're coming into the country in droves. And Kamala Harris and the Biden administration is doing nothing about it. So let's not be deceived by mainstream media, such as what just happened here, because it's ridiculous. People can hardly buy groceries now. Everything is so high. Inflation, it is under this administration. And he talked about the January 6th. I mean, it's ridiculous. And the injustice system, because that's what I call it. If that had been a bunch of Black folks out there charging like that upon the Capitol in DC, it would have been a bloodbath. They would have brought in the National Guard and everybody else. And like I said, I don't cater to either party. I cater to policies and strategies of implementation that impacts our community, because for almost 500 years, our community has been let down by both parties, because I call them one snake with two heads. And if we don't start making them accountable and stop just giving them our vote for nothing, that's insanity, because we get the same results decade after decade. So let's think about that, and let's look at how George had this meltdown and kept talking about slur. I didn't hear any slur from Byron Donalds. Did you? I didn't. And it appeared to me that old George, was upset because this black man, young black man at that, he may be a millennial or Gen Xer, I'm not sure which one, he would not let him bully him or put him in fear of speaking up and speaking out. And he spoke very articulately and very intelligently. And again, I don't pander for either party. However, I just call it when I see it and let the truth be told. Because old George, had a meltdown here. And he showed his true colors and made every attempt to exercise his white privilege over this black man that was a guest on his show. And pretty much when I saw this interview, I said, I got to address this, because we got to stop and think about what mainstream media does, and some of the black media too. Because we as black people, we perish for lack of knowledge. That's why it's so important for us to read. Read. And I often think of and read and speak of Dr. Claude Anderson, who wrote multiple books actually, but Black Labor, White Wealth, and Powernomics, and the Black History Reader, because a lot of us don't know our history and we don't understand the root cause of all of these inappropriate behaviors, and so much so that's going on within our Black community. We have to get to the root cause, and we have to assess our own inner feelings and do our due diligence, read more, do more assessments of what you see and what you hear, and do your own research, because that way it will help you to come to a more solid and sound conclusion as to what these panderers on both sides, for both parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, that one snake with two heads, and what they try and play mind games on you, as if we don't have the critical thinking skills or the intelligence to see straight through these mind games. So we got to stop allowing that. And pretty much that's basically what I wanted to say about this particular interview with George. Old George, out here pandering and talking about a bunch of nothing, when we should be talking about more about the policies, as Byron Donalds did intelligently point out. So again, I'm Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. Please subscribe, share. Leave your comments, give it a like, and thumbs up. And thank you so much. I appreciate all of my new subscribers for coming on board. And my goal is to bring content that's relevant to our Black community, because I am Louise Hicks, the mad Black woman, and that is for motivated and determined to help support and elevate our people to a higher level of consciousness. And as I always tell you in parting, your power lies within you. Let it loose, because your destiny is your command. And remember, 2 Timothy 1:7 that says, "For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and of a sound mind." So let's exercise that power, because you have it. You're brilliant. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And don't ever forget it. Thank you all again for all the love and support. Subscribe. share, 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 like, comment, 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 thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. And thank you all and see you in the next video. Much love.